So how'd you get started in transactional funding?
Oh, transactional funding. So that's a good question.
And continue with that, but also define what transactional funding is for folks who don't quite know what that is.
Sure. So transactional funding, basically, if you have, I'll just do an easy example because I think everybody can relate to this. If you're buying a house, you need to put some kind of earnest money deposit down to make sure that you as a buyer is very serious on buying this particular property. Now, as a wholesaler, you may not have, or you may have the funds to do a earnest money deposit. However, you might have multiple deals in the fire, and that might take away from your marketing efforts or your overhead efforts. And so, let's say your earnest money deposit is $5,000 to a property, and let's say you don't want to fork that up, which is totally fine. This is where I can help with that. So if you're looking for earnest money deposit for a property, I'm willing to fund that earnest money deposit as long as it's refundable, as long as you have a study period of a certain amount of days, so I know that I'm able to get my deposit back. And how I get paid is more of a profit sharing model, like a joint venture. Since I'm coming up with the money, I usually command between $1,000 to $4,000 return back on top of that $5,000 once you either assign the property to another end buyer as a wholesaler, or if you decide to take it down, then I would get paid at closing. Or if you're looking to do a different kind of exit, like a hotel situation, then that would be kind of a different structure as far as repayment. But more or less the same concept here is I can spot you the earnest money in return of a return on my end, like either $1,000 to $4,000, depending on
Yeah.
what we agree upon.
And
Um,
since it's not at least it doesn't seem like a traditional loan, like a hard money
yeah.
loan, because it's profit sharing. So now how do you set that up? Are you just doing a separate JV agreement with their entity, or are you having them carve out addendums to their entity that give you certain interest on the transaction? How does that work?
So basically, my partners and I, we just do a joint venture agreement between the two LLCs. And then also we have a personal guarantee for that funds with that joint venture agreement. On top of that, if it's a earnest money deposit, we have another document that we end up sending them. It's like an earnest irrevocable earnest money document where they're signing for the money that we are actually giving to escrow on their behalf. Um, so it's two forms of documents. That's just for the earnest money deposit. Now for gap funding is a little bit different, but more or less of the same. Joint venture, we put a second lien on the property if it closes. If it does a double close, then that lien will come off on the second close once everything is returned
Hmm.
plus interest or whatever it may be. Um, so depending on the situation, will determine what kind of paperwork will be used on the transaction type.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a buddy of mine does the gap funding, and I collaborate with him. But this is a multifamily, large multifamily,
Yep.
where you've got to raise 5 million, maybe you raise four, but you need the other million to close, and you'll
Mhm.
finish raising it post closing. Where come in, loan the million, and it's a variation of interest, origination, and equity.
Yeah.
Kind of depends on the situation, but I like that model because it definitely is a like you. I've done a lot of flips. To
Yeah.
have that money out is taxing on cash flow, and cash flow or lack thereof is what kills businesses. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you can minimize that to a certain point, then it can definitely help operations or help you grow.
Most definitely. And I mean, like this type of lending, or I guess joint venture, I should say, kind of caters to smaller, I guess, smaller deals because not a hard money lender or a private money lender is going to spend their time to fund a $500 or $1,000 EMD or
Yeah.
$5,000 EMD. It just doesn't make any sense for them. So this is where this would be a good opportunity for people like wholesalers to kind of leverage. And most people, most lenders won't go into second position, period. That's just not how they operate.
Yeah.
And so there is a caveat to that too, as well.
Yeah. Love it.